What is up, guys? In today's video, I'm going to be going over several quick tips that you're going to want to know in Fortnite Chapter 7. As always, if you guys do find this video to be helpful, informative, or interesting, remember to give it a like, subscribe if you'd like to see more, comment down below what you found the most helpful, and if you guys would like to use my code in the shop when getting anything, it is EvolvedJake, just like my channel name is, and it is underneath the webcam at all times. So the first thing we're going to talk about is how you land in this game. I'm sure many of you noticed the battle bus is not currently in the game, but it will be returning soon. With the wave landing, you have a bit of time to kind of reposition yourself left or right, kind of depending on what direction you want to go, depending on where you want to land. But you also can start the match like at a higher altitude if you want to glide further by going up on the wave before it launches you. And if you time this right, you can kind of do a jump just as it's going to deploy you. And then this will allow you to get the max height and potentially glide further than the being super low. So like I typically like being really low because I just want to land as fast as possible. But if you want to glide further to land at a further away location, getting this height can help you do that. One of the biggest changes I think this season that has been pretty underrated and underutilized thus far is going to be that you can now aim down sights while in air. You can also aim down sights while reloading, which isn't the biggest deal to me, but aiming down sights while in air is something that I think is really going to change the game in zero build because of how prevalent shockwaves are. And for all of Fortnite history, when you shockwaved at an enemy, you couldn't aim in. So typically you would just like hip fire your gun at them if you were traveling to them, if you wanted to do that. But now you can actually aim in with your weapon while you're in the air and aim a lot more accurately than you would be just by hip firing, and potentially get more damage on somebody you're about to push, potentially get shots on somebody that's trying to run away from you with shockwaves. And as I said, I think as time goes on, this is going to be something that really changes the game in zero build because of how much it helps with these shockwave push situations and how relevant those situations are in zero build. So I think taking advantage of this is something that I want to get better at and kind of get more in doing it naturally without having to think about it as much. And I think the people that learn to do this are going to have a big advantage on other players. Cars got like some secret changes this season, kind of. There's much less cars on the map, but also it seems like gas doesn't last as long in the car. So a lot of times when you're going around the game, you'll just find cars that are out of gas. It seems like cars have much less impact later on in the game. And another random change that I don't even know if it was intentional or not is going to be that you can no longer see your car's health while driving. You just kind of have to gauge it off whether or not the car looks damaged or looks destroyed or not. And this is something that I think is going to catch a lot of players off guard who are kind of more panic using the cars to run away. If you don't realize a car is weak or you don't realize that your car is about to explode because you can't see the health, I think it could lead to you getting blown up in the car more. So whenever you're using cars, kind of try to keep track of how weak it is and or like how many times you've been shot, how much you've been shot. It's hard to know like exactly how many shots, but it's like, okay, this car has been shot a lot. I'm just going to ditch it so I don't blow up on it. Like that type of thing. I think keeping track of that is helpful. And then also keeping track of gas more, just because they do run out a lot faster, it seems. So you may need to visit a gas station, but cars are obviously still something that are good. Another type of vehicle that's good is going to be the drivable reboot van. This is one of the new things that was added in Chapter 7, and this will allow you to reboot teammates wherever you want, but you can actually throw knocked teammates into the van itself and have the van revive your teammate. So I think this is something that controlling these vans is going to be really helpful in team game modes, and taking advantage of this is going to pull off a lot of like clutch revives. Even if you don't have the drivable reboot van, if your teammate gets knocked, you can just throw them at the car and the game will put them in the car now. So again, if you need to get away out of a bad situation and you don't have time to revive your teammate, but do have time to throw them in the car and drive away, that might be something that can completely save your game and can really help you. So the drivable reboot van I think is very good, but even if you want to use regular cars, knowing that you can throw your teammate into it is something that's going to help you a lot. Gold has been completely changed this season. Now everybody starts every match with 0 gold, but there's more gold around the map for you to grab from its like chests, cash registers, even supply drops give a lot of gold. And having access to or getting gold is going to be something that I think you need to focus on more this season, because the vending machines are actually quite good. A lot of times after looting your POI, if you're actively getting the cash registers and all of those things, you will have enough money to potentially buy a high rarity weapon. And if you need shields, you can buy big pots out of these vendings. So staying topped off on gold or getting a lot of gold in the early game and then getting it throughout the game to be able to buy shield and high rarity weapons is something that will give you an advantage as the game goes on. And typically I feel like gold was something that, at least myself, I mostly just ignored and didn't really think about, because if you played enough, you had enough gold. And now it resets every game, so you need to make more of like a conscious decision to get it. I personally think this is a very good change. The arc lightning gun can actually destroy bushes. This is something that completely surprised me. But if you happen to have this, or you happen to know where one is and an enemy is in a bush, you can completely catch them off guard by destroying their bush with the arc lightning weapon. The self-revive is a new item that was added, and I initially thought this took an inventory slot, so I was kind of ignoring it, but it actually doesn't take an inventory slot, so you should take self-revive whenever you find it. In solos, it's not going to matter too much, but in team game modes, being able to revive yourself without needing your teammates to do it, that way they don't, they're gun up the entire time, they're putting up pressure the entire time, gives you a huge advantage. So whenever you're in team game modes, getting the self-revive is going to be really helpful. In solos, it'll be niche helpful, maybe if like the enemy gets third-partied by somebody and then the third party doesn't know you're there. In really chaotic situations, it can maybe help, but most of the time in solos, self-revive is really not going to do that much for you unless the enemy is just very, very lost. The dual shotgun, the dual hammer shotgun, is one of the more preferred shotguns from Zero Build. From what I've seen, it seems like this is what a lot of players are using. But what a lot of people don't know is it's actually fully automatic. You can just hold down the shoot button with this weapon, and it will shoot at its fastest, most optimal rate. So if you have been tapping the triggers on that, you could still do that if you want. But if you want to shoot it as fast as possible, all you got to do is hold down the shoot button the entire time. The Wonky Land POI actually has mini games that you can play for loot. There is a shooting gallery game, and as you do this, you can get a lot of high rarity loot. It has been nerfed, so it doesn't drop as many items, but the loot you get from doing this is still pretty good. So if you happen to land here, or maybe come through here in the mid game and you need extra loot, doing this shooting game can help a lot, and it's something that a lot of people like. Obviously, while doing this, you are shooting and exposing other players to your location. And on the flip side of that, if you're around Wonky Land and you just hear like random shots like that, it might be someone going for that shooting gallery game that you can sneak up on, maybe get some easy timing. There's also a ramp jump that's like a movie set outside Classified Canyon. And if you make this jump in a car, you will also get loot for doing that. And both of these things can be repeated, to my knowledge. I know the shooting game can, and I believe the ramp can as well. So you can actually rack up a good amount of loot just repeating these mini games. Another mini game-esque thing that you can do to get loot is going to be this weight at the Ripped Tides POI. This weight is really heavy, so it takes a while for you to pick it up. But if you eat steaks that are around the POI, I think if you eat 4, it will open really quick. And basically just any of the kitchens or food areas at this POI have steaks. And each steak you eat makes it to where you can lift the weight faster. And doing so will give you high rarity loot. So if you land at Ripped Tides, I would definitely recommend going for those steaks to get this weight set. And you can get high rarity loot this way. You also have a chance to get the Mythic Iron Pump Shotgun. So it's not guaranteed you get the Mythic Shotgun, but there's a chance for it. You will always get a high rarity loot item regardless though. So I think this is worth going for if you land at the Riptides POI. There's also NPCs around the map that will drop a purple version of the sword if you eliminate them. So there's a gold version of this sword that you can get from the yellow portals around the map. But there's not very many of those portals, and they just spawn kind of randomly. So if you're someone who really likes using the sword, that's unfortunate for you. But I don't know if it's every NPC around the map or just some, but I know for certain some NPCs do drop a purple version of the sword. The Bride POI at Sandy Strip and the Dummy NPC at Ripped Tides, both will drop the purple version of the sword, and those are the only ones I've tested. The purple version of the sword only has 2 dashes at max rather than 3. The gold one allows you to do 3 dashes, and then they each kind of recharge. The purple one only has 2, but it's still much better than having no mobility. So knowing that these NPCs drop the sword, something that can really benefit you. As far as bosses go, as it is right now, the bosses just spawn randomly around the map, and you will see them on the map if you're close enough to them. It's been kind of rumored that once the battle bus returns, these bosses will actually jump out of the bus and then glide to where they're going to go. So you can maybe look for them on the bus and then follow them. But as it is now, they're just completely random. They are there at the start of the match, so it's not like you have to worry about them randomly spawning in like during the Simpsons season. But you do gotta be close enough to them to see them on the map. As far as their mythic weapons go, Brutus drops the twin hammer shotguns, the Hush NPC drops the Deadeye AR, and then Human Bill drops the mythic arc lightning gun. If you eliminate the boss, they drop a medallion that allows you to transform into a boss, and I would highly recommend not taking this. What it does is it marks you on the map perfectly. With medallions, you had a yellow circle, and so it was somewhat ambiguous where you were. With this boss indicator, people will know exactly where you are if they're close enough to see you marked, and they will actually see your health bar when they're shooting at you. So you get an ability and you get extra health for having the medallion, but losing an inventory slot, having yourself perfectly marked, and having enemies see your HP bar, which just makes it even easier for them to track you, I think is a downside that is not worth the upside. And from my experience playing thus far, it rarely seems like these bosses make it to the late game. So I think that it's probably more trouble than it's worth to have these bosses. With Chapter 7, they reworked the hit marker sound, and so it sounds different, and a lot of players don't like how loud it is. But you can actually disable this in the audio section of the settings. The legacy hit marker sound is how Fortnite sounded before Chapter 7. So if you don't like the new sounds, you can disable that. You will actually get glider redeploy if you jump off one of the balloons that are traveling around the map. And this will allow you to jump off and glide to safety. So if you're up here and you knock an enemy and you want to push it or go get the loot or just get out of the balloon for whatever reason, being able to redeploy off these balloons is pretty helpful. And then one final thing I want to touch on that I forgot to talk about earlier is that going to be with the gold changes. As I said, it resets every game. I feel like it has more impact on the game now, and it's something you kind of need to more actively go for. You can actually drop your gold to teammates. This is something that you previously couldn't do, but if you go into your inventory, like how you would drop ammo or any other item, you can go to the gold and just straight drop it for your teammates now. So if you have a little bit and they have a little bit, you can combine to get what you need potentially. And that's something that could save you in a pinch. But that is going to be it for this video. As always, if you guys did find this to be helpful, informative, or interesting, remember to give it a like, subscribe if you'd like to see more, and I will see you guys in the next one. Thanks for watching.